Hey, how you guys doing? Martin Lopez here from the Curiosity Theory, and super excited about tonight's broadcast. We're going to talk about a couple different things, but the what I wrote in the description tonight, what we're going to talk about is kind of went like this. So often people try to avoid fear. Would you agree with that? Yeah, people are always avoiding fear. Like what can I do to not be afraid? What can I do to avoid getting in a situation where I'm scared, where I'm experiencing fear? And or they say fear, like some people on the other side, they'll say like fear isn't real. Like there's fear is false evidence appearing real, and you shouldn't, you should just avoid it or like crush it. All these different things that they say. And what I say is when you're experiencing fear, it sure feels real. I know for me, when I experience fear in my life, it sure feels like it's real fear. So what we want to do is we want to talk tonight. Got a couple friends. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk a little bit about fear and how that lives for us and what we can do, like how we can navigate through fear, how it lives for us. And just kind of like have a conversation about that, because right now with the whole corona virus and there's things that happen. I give you an example of something that happened the other day. I walk into my office and there's somebody that is a really, really good friend of mine that I see all the time. I see her all the time. And one of my favorite people, and I think I'm one of her favorite people at the office, right? So probably about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I walk in the office and I'm walking down the hall and she puts her hand out like that, like, stay away, and it wasn't like this kind of kind version of stay away. It was kind of like this abrupt, kind of like, like that. Right. And so I could take offense to that. But what I decided to do is I decided to like think and be empathetic. Like I'm sure she's probably concerned. I'm sure she's probably afraid of for herself. And I don't know exactly what she's going through, but I do understand that like that kind of response to me is something out of the 7 or 8 years I've known her, is she's never given me anything other than, hey, Martin, how you doing? Big hug and all that kind of stuff. Right. So that's completely different. Then last week, I think it was last Monday, I'm taking in some loan docs. It's like 7:00 in the morning. I'm bringing a set of loan documents that were signed that weekend, and I'm bringing them into the office. And as I'm walking in the office, it's like 7:00 in the morning, right? And I walk in, I say, hi, and there's a few people in the office. And the first thing I hear is, what are you doing here? What are you here for? And like, I'm literally bringing that person loan documents, right? So I'm here bringing those docs, she goes, just leave them over there. And it was just kind of like really abrupt kind of, and I wouldn't say it was nasty, but it just wasn't something that seemed like it was real like kind, if you will, like it's not like, it's like this nice, kind way that we're used to communicating with each other. Right. So, yeah. So Eric Swanson says she gave you the Heisman. Absolutely. I got totally got the Heisman. Thanks, Eric. And so what I've seen out there is a lot of people are scared. People, you go to the supermarket and people kind of, they're shying away from you. Right. And so there's a lot of fear out there. So what I want to do tonight is take a curious look, like use the curiosity theory, right? Use the curiosity theory and take a look at fear and how it shows up for people and how we can deal with it, how we can work through it. So I've got a couple friends. I'm going to bring them on right now. I got one of my friends, our Payam Hagani. How you doing, Payam?
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with Martin and you guys. Thanks for having me here, Martin.
We're happy to have you. And then a couple other friends of mine, Aaron and Veronica, who I do almost every one of my Facebook lives with. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hey Martin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I am. If you could turn up your if you could turn up your volume a little bit, that would be really great. If you can do that, see if you can give that a shot, just so that we can get a little bit. I'm going to change the background right here, so you don't have to see this other background. So it's kind of like a little cleaner. And did you guys hear what I was talking about just a couple minutes ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, have you what have you found have you found is happening out there in the real world, right? How people are responding to you and interacting with you as you're going maybe to the supermarket or going for a walk. Like, what are you guys seeing happening?
Well, I guess I'll go.
Okay.
Well, I just see it. It just seems like everybody's in trouble. Like when you go to the store, it seems like very quiet, and you're just like walking around. some places are empty, and I see a lot of aggression with other people. Like they're taking out their aggression on like the person ringing them up, or just I don't know. There's little things like that. Like I do sense more aggression with people.
Yeah, we were at the store the other day and we were in line, and right now they got that social distancing where they got the tape and everything on the floor, and it's something that everybody's got to get used to. It's something new, and I think everybody at the store was kind of getting close to each other. And one of the managers, got on the intercom and just say, everybody needs to stay 6 feet back. We're not going to get out of here anytime sooner. We're doing the social distancing, and it just sounded like everybody got in trouble, and that awkward feeling, like uh-oh. And everybody just started standing in line, and the whole place just got quiet. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting because we are going through a big change, and a lot of people can't do the things that they normally do habitually.
Uh-huh.
And so you're seeing a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like Eric Swanson said, he said, we are all scared, brother. He says, we are all scared. And I think that's an interesting comment, because I don't know that we are all scared. I think a lot of people are scared and a lot of people are concerned. But not everybody I talk to is scared. People have different ways of looking at what's going on. And Payam, I know you and I went for a walk last night, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit.
Your voice got broken, Martin.
My voice got broken?
No, you're good on our end.
Can you hear me good right now?
Maybe it's my side.
Okay. Maybe your side, Payam.
I don't have the voice anymore.
Why don't you log off? Can you log back on with your phone or something? Are you on your computer?
I don't think you can hear.
Payam.
Okay, he'll get back on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have. Hopefully, he logs off and then comes back on with his phone. So so what are your approaches? Like, how do you guys approach fear, and how do you guys approach that kind of tension that you experience inside of yourselves?
Well, for me, I'm not really afraid, because I know the media can hype things up. But I think I grew up in fear, so I know what that feels like, and that's more like when you really are in the middle of it. I guess fearing for someone else's life or things like that, but or even your own. But right now, I don't know. I just don't feel that same fear that I did growing up. So it can be it's kind of hard to explain, but.
Well, how about if we go back to that? So, because a lot of times, you've gone through that whole, you've gone through fear, right? Mm-hmm. You've gone through it, but at some point you experience fear.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about we talk about that? Because one of the things I said is, like, when we experience fear, it sure seems real for us. Mm-hmm. Like when whenever you experience fear, people say, false evidence appearing real, and they have all these different ways to talk about fear. But when you're experiencing it and someone says, well, you shouldn't be afraid. It's like, well, mm-hmm. No, but I am afraid. I am experiencing fear. So how about if we go back a little bit, Veronica, and talk about, like, when you did have fear, and how did you, there was a point where you were experiencing fear, and there's a point where you worked through it. Now I think that's where the value is in these conversations. Because, like, if you talk about, like, well, I don't have any fear, and, like, people go, well, well, why am I talking?
That's boring.
Yeah, why am I talking? Like, why am I talking to you? I think what I notice is that, like, when I'm having conversations, and when you guys have conversations, because you guys literally deal with people's fear and anxiety and all those different things. So that's the thing that I think is important versus, like, I don't have fear, and not to offend you or be,
mm-hmm.
But, like, so what was that? What was that for you? And how did you work through your fear? How did you work through the fear that you used to experience?
Well, growing up, I used to isolate myself. I became introverted, quiet, shy, and I think for, like, knowing what I know now, I handled that probably in the not so good way. I did it in a way to avoid conflict so I wouldn't get in trouble. And so I just wouldn't talk anymore, because if I talked, then there's a chance that I could get in trouble. So I just learned to just be the observer and not say anything. So
Okay.
I wasn't expressing, I was just bottling everything up. And knowing what I know now, that wasn't such a good thing, because then, other things can happen where, it could explode or whatever. But I would say it wasn't a healthy way at that time. Oh, there's the echo.
Echo.
And we're by ourselves.
All right, we're taking over the show now. So we're talking about fear, and I can see it as the way we handle it. Yes, we have fear at times, and I think going back to your comment earlier, it's more of, are you scared in this situation right now, which is not. But we have had times when we all experience fear. We all have emotions that we experience, and what I think Martine's getting at is, when we go through those moments, what do we do? Like, how do we used to handle it? What's different from today?
I guess, like, more as an adult, like when 9/11 happened, I would say there was a little more fear in that, even though it was in New York and we're in California, but it was that uncertainty of like what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna all experience like all these attacks everywhere? So at that time, I was unsure of what was happening. So I would say I had more fear then than I do with this situation that's going on, even though there's still uncertainty, but it is what it is. And, you just have to go through the motions. But I don't know, it's not as scary for me now. And I think because I've worked through a lot of my emotional stuff that I've held on to. And like, what about you for your, what do you feel right now? I know you're not fearful either right now in this situation.
In this situation, I say, going back, even how when I've experienced things like fear, is I used to dwell on it, and sometimes dwelling on it would lead to a lot of like worry, anxiety. And think about what fear is. Fear is like it's constantly worrying about something that might potentially happen, whether it's false or real. And it's,
we can't hear him.
I'm trying. Keep talking.
Okay.
He's just letting me talk. He's being respectful. Got it.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show, Martine. We just took it over for you.
Thank you for doing that.
And so, as we talk about this fear, it's I can almost feel it on the inside. It really creates a physical issue within all of us, and for some people, it can make them sick. And that's what we've been telling people. The worst thing that you can do right now in this situation is be in constant fear or worry, because you will actually deplete your immune system. Your whole physiology changes. So the more you can be optimistic, positive, looking for the bright side of things. And that's how we deal with everything right now when it comes to fear. Yeah, do we get concerned once in a while? Absolutely. But when we learn to identify that, going into a fear mode is the wrong way to go about it. And when we can say now is, okay, if this were to happen, what would I do? What's the next solution? Because when we're in a fear or any kind of highly emotional state, we don't think clearly. All conscious reasoning goes out the door. So we want to have that moment where we can take a breath and be able to think of solutions. Okay, so maybe we can't go do all the things that we want to do now. What do I do? What can I do now until the meantime? And I think we can all get a different perspective. It changes the way that we feel.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you very much. I'm trying to get this thing streamed. Wilman, so you and I always talk about, can you hear me, Wilman?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I'll make sure you're on. Payam, how you doing, buddy? You back?
I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I'm back.
So how do you deal with fear? How do you deal with fear as a coach, as an athlete,
Well, fear to me is based on something I either don't know or I've had a horrible experience with. And so generally speaking, if I'm triggered like to have those emotions, then I find that I'm not really in the present. And so the only thing for me to do is sort of like a Zen approach to it, where I just need to hold my position in space until I'm comfortable where I am, So like if let's say I was walking down the street and, I saw a dog and I got bit by a dog as a child. Well, I can't really go forward without that terror, which is basically going to incite the dog more, you know, and I think it's going to recreate my childhood situation. So I look at it like, well, I just need to stand here at whatever 10, 20 feet and be comfortable with that situation and look at it in a new unit of time, so to speak, you know, and then until I can move that electrical energy out of my body, the negative emotions that tell me that I'm in danger, I really can't do anything about the situation. And sometimes it takes running into a lot of dogs to work through that. At some point, I've managed to, because like for example, I remember when I was a kid, we went to a construction site, and we just thought it was an interesting thing. I think I was 12. We just thought it was interesting to throw rocks through the windows. Yeah. You know, I don't, you know, it was a bunch of boys, and we were like, didn't know what to do. And it's like, hey, let's just throw some rocks through the windows. So we ended up getting caught by the security, and then we saw the police, and this policeman had us in the back room of a 7-Eleven saying he was going to call our parents and all these horrible things. And I remember being completely terrified. But part of that had to do with just they were going to tell my father. And, you know, my father was, you know, he was pretty aggressive, old school, you know, hit us with a belt sometimes. And I didn't want to have that experience. So for years, police officers make me shake until I worked through that emotion. But I had to become aware that I was in a past situation, and then I had to like tell myself I'm going to work through this. There's always a conscious decision, I think, that something is happening. I don't want it to happen, and I need to change it. And you know, for some things are easier to work through than others. But I would say at this point, I don't experience those emotions a lot. It's pretty rare that I'll have an emotion of fear where I'm actually in danger. And I've been in situations where I feel like I might get my ass kicked here, you know, but I've worked through my childhood emotions and also looking at it like I can't do something about the situation.
You know, I that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. What if we look like, you know, guys like you and me kind of guys, you know, and I don't know like how Aaron is, but I know, woman, I've known you for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And you know, like for me, like I'm not asking to be in a fight. Like, you know, universe don't get me in a fight, but I usually don't get scared if like someone wants to kick my ass or if I'm going to be in a fight. Typically, that stuff typically doesn't freak me out or bother me or scare me. So that's not a fear that I deal with. But like these other fears that I felt myself dealing with was like literal, like, you know, being petrified sometimes, you know, like having to make calls. And it was just really weird. Like, you know, just like making calls that I've made calls for years and years, but all of a sudden I became afraid of making phone calls, and I've done it for years and years.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like what I was like, wonder what happens, you know, like what happens. And then if we take it to the coronavirus, we take it what people are experiencing right now is like, what's like really happening that you're afraid, that you put your hand out and you're like, hey, get away from me and all that. Like, what's really behind that? Like, what's the real fear behind that? You know, what you're saying, I hear you say, woman, is like, there's certain things I'm not afraid of, but what about those things that you are afraid of? Like what does show up that maybe creates a little bit of fear, or maybe you have no fear at all?
I believe that it's all an unknown. There's an unknown factor and there's a danger factor, and it's mostly has to do with your inability to deal with something. Like you believe you can't deal with the situation.
Cool. So it's a belief.
Yes,
Right
I think
on.
it is.
Okay,
I think it's the way. Definitely, it's you make a decision. I don't know what this is. I'm in trouble. And so then all of a sudden you've just commanded your body to go into a different, you know, like a different adrenal experience. And that will then dictate how your brain functions from that point forward.
Cool.
And that's
I
the
think
kind of
that's
thing.
very advanced. So let's get to there. Let's like walk our way to that. Like you command your body to do something, because I think.
Well, but that's what I said. You have to
Yeah.
stand there.
Yeah.
Part of it is just stand there and being present. Like, let's say you and I got into an argument.
Yeah.
And you started
Everybody
yelling
can
at
jump
me.
in, but guys, y'all welcome to jump in at any time. Go ahead, woman.
But like, let's say you start yelling at me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really terrifying. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, and then we have like, I don't know, a couple of years of friendship. You're yelling at me, and I keep getting terrified. The first point that I have to make that transition in is, number one, to be aware that I want to change the situation. Number two, to stand there until I'm able to move through some of those emotions and
Uh-huh.
gradually reduce the charge that is associated with it. You know,
Okay,
it's
I'll
a
step in
gradual
here for a
thing. You're
minute.
not,
Go ahead, Rohit.
yeah, go ahead.
You see, what you're describing, Wilman, is doing it logically with your mind
Yeah.
and using your courage, using repetition, all of that stuff, and it's good. It
Experience
works.
and all that. Yeah.
It works. It's in psychology they will use that in a technique called CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, where if someone has fear of, let's say, heights, or whether they have the problem is that, you know, whatever that fear might be, once you're in that situation, you're going to start experiencing it, and therefore perhaps even deepening it. There is that risk. And it may take quite a while to get over it. But here's something that works even better than that. We've seen this
Let's
very
not come
same
with
thing.
conclusions just yet. How about if we don't come with conclusions? I want to like distinguish
I'm
the
not
fear.
concluding. Hold on.
Is that cool?
Hold on.
All right.
I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay, good.
What
Okay.
we've seen is that when it's done under hypnosis, where a person's in a safe environment and that person now, you know, nothing can harm them here, they're able to go into that scenario through their same mind, because the mind doesn't know the difference between reality and what is imagined. So once you place them back in that very situation, they can now rehearse going back into something and feeling safe.
Yes.
Going back there, feeling safe. Going back there, feeling safe. And the result of which is that the same thing you would achieve doing it physically, it's just a lot easier to do under hypnosis.
Do you think so?
And often more effective. Well, I'm not saying the other
I
doesn't
mean,
work.
let's-
CBT
No, I know
works.
what I'm saying. I'm not saying it. I'm not
Let's
saying it
back
doesn't
up
work.
one
My
second, guys.
question
Let's
is,
back up because because I think where we're getting to right now is awesome. Like this conversation, I want to have what we're talking about right now in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's very solution. Like this is the solution that we're talking about. Like, this is the stuff that makes sense. But I think, I personally think, like when I'm having conversations with people, they tell me what they're really afraid of. To them, it's like they're really afraid of something. So I want to walk through that versus just jump to the solutions. If that's
Absolutely,
cool.
yes.
Does that make sense?
And it's
So,
very real.
yeah.
I appreciate what you've been saying, Martin, earlier. It is very real.
Yeah.
And to try to dismiss it by saying that it is false evidence appearing real or any such little acronym and simplify it down to that is just, you know, almost an insult to that person's state of mind. They are going through what they're going through. I'm 100% with you on that, with any emotion for that matter,
Yeah.
whether that is anger, hurt, fear, whatever it might be, sadness. You know, if you're not directly involved and you are a bystander, of course it appears like, oh, what's the big deal, man? Come
Yeah.
on, get over it.
Yeah.
But that's because you're not in that person's shoes.
Yeah.
And once you're there, then it's real. And it can happen to anybody, and it can be it's usually illogical. So you can't rebut it with logic, unfortunately. Once you're there, a whole different methodology is required to get out of there.
Absolutely. And do you think that fear is like habitual? It's like we have like a habit of being afraid of certain things. Like it's kind of over and over, like those things that, and Payam and Aaron and Veronica, chime in anytime you want. Do you think that like fear exists for most people is kind of like more like a reminder, like, oh yeah, I'm afraid of that thing. Like we get triggered and like we keep getting afraid of the same things and we keep experiencing fear about the same things. Not like new stuff. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
what? Who are you asking?
I'm asking
That
everybody.
you're asking.
Of
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
course,
asking
it makes
everybody.
sense.
Oh, can you repeat that, please?
So like fear in people, is it like always like you get a new fear? Like, oh God, that's a new
I
thing.
think
I'm
for
afraid
some
of.
people,
Or is it
I think for
most-
some people it's a habit. I think for some people it's a survival mechanism.
okay.
You know, that's what they know how to live and go through. You know, like I used to have sort of the Phoenix Rising mentality, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, in order to be the Phoenix Rising, I had to keep burning the house down.
Yeah.
You can't be the Phoenix without something being on fire.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
have to burn. You have to get burnt by
Yeah,
that
everything
fire.
has to be a disaster. So I had to keep burning the house.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
so
Or
I-
like this
I
this
kept
coronavirus.
validating that.
Yeah.
I kept validating that state and
Yeah.
those skills. But it's like, you know, at some point you just got to stop. You got to stop yourself.
No, I totally understand, but that's like 5 minutes down the line from here, you know, because let's get into like really what it is. Like it's like this coronavirus, right? it's kind of like the monsters, like today's monster. It's going to attack. Be afraid, like Godzilla's coming to kill us. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's how we've taken it.
Yeah, it's like today's monster. But we could take, I'm looking at these statistics. Okay, check this out. Like, let's look and guys, chime in. Payam and Aaron and Veronica, chime in. 264 million people globally face depression right now. 264 million. That's what the estimate is. Okay, in the United States, 50,000 people this year will commit suicide. Okay. That's just based on the last couple of years average. What's going on right now, they're saying that number could go up another 30%. Globally, 800,000 people every year commit suicide.
But suicide isn't like the source of why they're killing themselves. That's the effect of right?
Yeah.
That's just that's what they decided to do based on whatever their circumstances were.
Yeah, but
so we don't know if they killed themselves because they don't have any money, or because they have an abusive spouse, or because they, they're afraid to be deported back to their own country. Yeah. You don't know what the reasons are why they're killing themselves. So I don't know if that's. I mean, it would be more valid to say 50,000 people died of pneumonia last year, which is, that's okay. That's a sort of a comparable, fact.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that we could take any narrative. We can take a narrative and create pandemonium over a narrative and say, there's
totally,
what I mean? We could say all these people are committing suicide. Watch out. You're going to commit suicide. That kind of, we could do that. We could create fear. We could create a monster almost anywhere.
Yeah.
I think they have.
Like reaching. I know I'm totally reaching, but the point is my thought is that couldn't we create fear from anything?
Yeah, we've right now found the smallest, tiniest, most invisible thing to be terrified about.
Yeah.
And early, there are people who are afraid of flight, of airplanes. They're afraid of heights. You can still see that, okay, there is some level of known risk out here. But here we're dealing with something that has perhaps a 3 to 5%, probability of death. And yeah, definitely a real thing, but old age kills almost everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. How come we're not afraid of that one?
Yeah.
Why aren't we working on dealing with old age and curing it forever and getting a
what woman was saying earlier. Yeah, what woman was saying earlier, it's like where, I don't know if you said this, but kind of what I heard what you're saying is it's kind of like where our focus is that's like, where's our attention? Like, where's our attention? Payam, what do you want to say about all this? I think he's just giving me a pretty face.
He can't hear us.
He might be mute. He might be muted.
He might be muted. Payam, try talking and see what happens.
Yeah, I voices are breaking apart, and I cannot hear Wilman at all. I don't know what's happening. But can you guys hear me?
Are you on a computer?
We hear you.
Payam, are you on a computer?
No, I'm on my cell phone, but I tried to join through
That's probably why.
And I have it Google Chrome, but it says that it doesn't support it.
Okay.
It could be a connection.
Puzzle all together,
Chrome.
And I'm guessing that what you guys are talking about. So I have a different type of show from here. But just add a little bit to the values that you're sharing is one thing that is happening hugely this time about this fear is that media is broadcasting it 24/7, and that multiplies the fear that everyone has. And we experienced the Spanish flu, and it killed a lot of European people. It's not like today that you wake up and you check your phone and you get the recent updates about the death and people have the corona or all of that. So I personally try to avoid the news and just inform myself of what's happening. And okay, she's saying
Keep
that
talking.
it's delayed.
Just keep
closing
talking.
other
Yeah.
programming.
Keep going.
You're good on our end.
Maybe let me try that. So yeah.
Nope, now we lost him.
All right, I'm gonna
Screenshot.
Yeah,
I have screenshot.
So I'm just going to bump him for the moment until he gets it, because I can see him on the back if he's coming in. What do you guys like? So all I want to do is just kind of create this background of what's going on. Whereas the idea is that I have is that, and I think it's what woman said. It's kind of like how we view things or how stuff kind of comes at us. It's like, if you like what Payam was saying, is that in the media is what's their job? They got to sell commercials. They got to keep us watching it. And what better way to keep us watching what's going on than to, give us a bunch of stuff that we can be more afraid of, because we got to look and see, is the monster closer? Is the monster closer? How close is the monster? How many people died today? Go ahead.
For many years, my practice has been to let in the monster.
That's awesome. Okay, let's go there.
To expose myself to bugs, like I'm from India, and so the street food is some of the best stuff you can get. And I would like to go and eat the street food, because I had the belief that if you expose yourself to this stuff, you will develop immunity to it. I would also not avoid being around people who had the flu or anything else. I had a very strong belief that my body could fight this stuff, and it did, and it will. At the same time, I would also do a lot of self-care and nurturing to make sure that, I was not ignoring my own health.
Yeah.
And I found that a balance between, so it's not about being reckless, but it's about gradually building immunity while at the same time doing self-care at an emotional level as well as a physical level. If I started to notice symptoms coming up, I'd back off and make sure that did I get enough sleep? Is there any emotion that is bothering me? Is there anything that I need to look into? And I would do that sort of mental inventory, take some time out for me, and then go back out and expose myself a little bit more. Not hugely, just a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm doing that with the coronavirus, because the first time I'm dealing with something that has a death potential.
Mm-hmm.
I like to play with fire, but I'm not sure I want to get burnt.
That's right.
I am not advocating this to anybody either.
I mean, street food can kill you in some places too, though.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I've seen some pretty nasty stuff out there.
That's right.
Yes, you might get
Like
a bad
mankind
stomach.
will eat anything.
What's that?
Mankind will eat anything.
I know.
And I've seen like chocolate covered crickets and like
crickets.
Those are my
Those are my
favorite.
favorite.
You know what I mean? Like,
wrapped in
I mean,
bacon
I
on the corner.
knew a guy said, "I'll try anything once," and he was like, they eat. There are some countries that have live monkey brains. The monkey's underneath the table; it's alive, and they just cut the head open.
That's right. You've heard of that too.
You know what I mean?
I thought I was the only one I heard of that one.
No, this guy really experienced it, and I'm thinking that would kill me. Just the thought of eating it, would kill me. Like, but anyway, it's just kind of funny.
No, I totally.
But you know what? Okay, but look, check it out. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
And this is where I think this is what I've noticed it. I've repeatedly tried to point out more and more.
Yeah.
Is that Rohit made a decision. I'm going to assault myself. So he made a decision, and that decision started to slowly transcend his experience of those things. Yeah. That was the first and foremost thing. Then his body and his situation and his mind and his life started to acclimate his circumstances and his immune system to it, because he said, I'm going to assault myself and get better. So everybody has to make that decision, however terrified you are, however crippled you are. I'm coaching soccer. I see kids and they think that I'm like, I'm basically a baby gorilla to them. For whatever reason.
I love it. You always say that. It's awesome.
Serious. They're like 9 and 10 years old. If I'm a screaming adult, they're going to look at me like, oh my God, I'm going to die. This 200-pound elephant is coming at me, And so I have to sit there and see the fear on their faces and then just say, hey, it's okay. You're going to be all right. At some point, they decide that I'm okay. When they decide that I'm okay, they can start coming out of the fear.
Yeah.
And everybody has to have that awareness. I'm going to go through this. Yeah. Nothing changes without that, I think.
Yeah. Until you take personal responsibility, I think what you're saying and how I look at what you're saying, Wilman, is at the point that you decide that inside of here is going to dictate what's happening out there, or inside of here is going to start dictating my experience. Right. And out there is going to dictate your experience.
Yes.
Like until you decide about the monster in here, or the hero in here.
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's it.
Go ahead, Rohit. Go ahead.
That's it. That's what it is. It's the monster in here. It's the monster in here. And you've got to slay that monster. And I think all of life is designed around being able to find our own inner monsters and really face them and challenge them and
Yeah,
stand up
excuse me.
to them.
I got to plug my computer in, so that's what all this movement is.
No problem. You're fine.
And it's about challenging them, because I find that I've been doing this a little by little on various topics. Financial might be another one, which a lot of people are facing today. I'm facing today, because sort of my entire clientele just kind of disappeared out the window. And I'm sure a lot of other folks are facing that, maybe with jobs or whatever else, because just, people used to come to see me in person, and now they're in social distancing and they're afraid, and so they're not coming. So at this moment in time, it's just become a huge setback. But there's something I've been holding on to, which is this deep decision, that life, God, the universe is taking care of me, and I will always be supported. Now, that's a decision I took somewhere in my heart. It came after many years of begging and pleading. Hey, give me a few $1,000,000 and I'll be fine. Then I'll go out and do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it didn't happen. And I was like, okay, damn it, I'm just going to surrender.
I need a different strategy.
Surrender happened. Yeah, when the surrender happened, it was just
Doesn't bargain.
peace from here. Yeah, no bargains were happening. Like, I tried bargaining. I tried pleading. I tried come on, let's do this, No, sorry. 15 years passed like that. And then finally I gave up and I said, okay, I surrender. However you keep me, whatever it is, I trust I'm going to be fine. And so now there's this deep trust. And the last 15 years have gone by with that trust. And even if things go up and down, clients come, they go, the universe shifts around, the world becomes crazy, I still have it in me that everything's going to be fine. And it's just a belief, nothing else. It's a deep, solid belief, a decision, if you want to call it that.
It's a belief inside of here that you created.
Yeah. So I'm not terrified by this situation. I've already embraced the bottom line. If it means that I'm going to have to live out on the street tomorrow, hey, I'm going to still be happy. I've chosen to be happy here. I will be happy if I live in a mansion. I'll be happy if I live on the street. That's my decision.
Okay, so let's talk about that moment that the thought comes in. So everything's good, things are good, you got your clients, money's rolling in, and then all of a sudden, you watch the news, and all of a sudden we got to stay indoors, and nobody gets to go to work, and millions of people are losing their jobs, all that. Like, there's moments that we have that we start to think about something. Like, we're now thinking about something we didn't think about before, right? Yep. And what you were saying, Rohit, I love what you were saying, is like, there's a moment where you know what? I might not have money anymore. I might not have the money. Like,
might happen.
Was there like a time frame that you had that thought, and then
I still have it.
Fear
I still have it, Martin.
Did you experience? Okay, so do you experience fear around that, or you do not?
I'll tell you what I do. It's a very simple thing that I do. It's like there's a part of me, I call that's the child part of me, the human part of me, the ego part of me, whatever you want to call it. And it does get scared. Okay. Although I spoke everything I spoke and it sounds great bravado and everything else, hey, there's another side that gets scared, and that's real. And so all I do is I say, hey, buddy, we're okay. Don't worry. I've got your back. We're going to go through this. We're going to be fine. But thanks for being there. And I love you anyway. And it's okay. I got this.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. The truth. Like, I talk to so many people, Aaron, Veronica, Wilman, Payam, Rohit, we talk to so many people. We know so many influencers, so many people that get on stage and act like they never experienced fear, like, be brave and all that. It's like, no, do you know the reason? You know why you have to be brave? Because you're afraid. Because there was no reason to be brave if you weren't afraid.
That's right.
Like, it wouldn't have no value. It's like, why would having money have any value? But being poor sucks. It's like there's that contrast. You got to have the contrast. Love is awesome because there's hate out there. It's the contrast. Yeah. So fear is like, okay, well, it's about, to me, I say it's about having freedom around fear, not having fear.
No. See, Martin, I'll point out something here.
It's about having freedom around fear, not having fear.
But that's a little bit good. That goes a little bit to like that George Bernard Shaw quote, where like you just gotta assault yourself repeatedly to know that you can actually overcome stuff.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I've been through so many emotional things that I've done to myself. I mean, I don't think anybody could torture me emotionally more than I have myself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Seriously. It's like,
Everybody
oh, that
raise
looks,
your hand if you agree with that about your own self, right?
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, that looks like a hard path. Why don't I go ahead and do that to myself and destroy all this goodness that I'm having? Because what the fuck?
Right.
So
My life's going good. Why don't I do something else?
yeah, but
Absolutely, I'm with him on that. I love to do that kind of stuff.
but there's
Rock the boat a bit. Come on, shake things up. Let's
Yeah,
get moving. What's
that's
this?
right.
Because people thrive on the drama. It'd be boring if everything was going great and perfect. Some people think it would be boring. So like, let's go through the struggle a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, this has brought a great adventure to our door. You couldn't have asked for a better movie, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I love movies.
And I love the movies, right? Same here. And what good is a movie without some tension and some struggle, right?
We're going back and we're talking about like dealing with the fear and kind of like coming face to face with the monster you guys mentioned before. And part of the issue is that from as a society, I believe, is we're not really taught how to express and talk and deal with our emotions. We're here to like figure it out on our own. Yeah. Some take training to learn how to do that, but it's not really taught in the households. Maybe like a very small percentage of parents will teach their children, here's what you do with your emotions. Our emotions are here to guide us. And we're gonna have fear, we're gonna have anger, we're gonna have worry, we're gonna have love, we're gonna have joy, all of that, and a mix of it. Yeah. And it's like, okay, what is this supposed to tell us? What area within us needs to heal from, as you guys mentioned, it was past experiences, maybe things that happen to us repeatedly over and over again. And we always talk, it's like the lesson that we haven't learned yet. And until you learn it, it's going to keep showing itself over and over, the repetition, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, once you learn how to deal with that emotionally, okay, let's face the fear. Let's face our anger and respecting where everybody else is. Like, yeah, I'm scared. Yes, I am angry. Not try to block it. No, everything's fine. That's when we bottle it down. And that becomes an issue. It affects us internally. It also affects our behavior and everything that can happen outside of us. And so if we all learn how to embrace our emotions, embrace fear, and say, okay, yeah, here's what it is, and deal with it. And it's like, it's going to be like something that just happens like very momentarily, and then we move on. But the moment we try to hide it and suppress it and act like it's not there, the stronger it builds like a pressure cooker. Exactly. And it's going to create more issues. But when you say, yes, I'm scared of this, okay, what do I do from here? Yeah. And then you realize, okay, now that I've let that emotion go, my conscious reasoning mind can now start to kick in and start coming up with solutions. So if people are in fear right now with money, it's okay. Great. Deal with that fear right now. Deal with it. A friend of mine, Scott Duffy, always mentions, he says, you need to learn how to panic faster. Go ahead and go through your panic right now. Go to your fear mode, vent it out, whatever you need to do. That energy is going to die off just like a storm. Yeah. And then when it calms down, that's when you can start to think, okay, what's the next step? If this happens, okay, what am I going to do in this situation? And come up with a plan or a solution. And we should all do that with every situation.
But you see, that is you're mentioning some very logical things. They come later. When you're in an emotional state, the thought of how am I going to deal with this, which is your logical mind coming in, you're not ready to do that yet. When you're in an emotional state, you've got to handle the emotional. It's a different language altogether. Yeah. I've had to learn this language. I had no clue about this language when I grew up. Emotion, you asked me, what are you feeling like? Damn, I don't know what I'm feeling like. What is that?
We're teaching that in the Lopez house. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm sorry. Wait, can you say that again? There's an emotional language and a mental language. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's an emotional part of our brain. There's a logical part of our brain. I think we've all heard that part before. But the point is, they both have a different language, and they need to be handled differently. So when you're in an emotion, it's like if a kid's in emotion and you tell them, hey, there's no need to cry. What's the big deal? This will pass. This too shall pass. And the kid goes, ah! He's like, they're not going to stop crying because you gave them some little philosophical bit of jargon, right? They're just going to cry even more. Like, you're trying to shut me up? No, you don't get to do that.
Yeah, now you don't care for me.
Right. I mean, but that's an interesting thing, because I think that, I mean, we do have emotions. I have emotions, but there's got to be a point where I would say that if I don't know, I feel like I've sort of transcended a lot of emotions.
No, you
You
probably
know?
have. You probably have because you've
So,
done a lot
but
of work.
yeah, I have done a lot of work, and I'm but I think that mostly if I go with emotions to me are like surges. They're just like, it's like energy that's like rushing through my body. I'm in love, or oh my God, I'm so hungry, or I gotta go to the bathroom, like I'm whatever that surge in my body is. At some point, I have to not let it always tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Because they're just primitive. They're
Yeah.
not really going to make things better for you unless you're lucky and you have like, I have this surge, I'm going to make $1 million and, contribute to the planet. I mean, I don't know how many people have that one, but you know what I mean? So
Traumatic.
at some point we all have to evolve as a human being above that like primitive urge of like, ah!
Well, man, I very rarely have heard anyone express this so honestly, and honestly, I feel the same way. I hesitate to say it because it makes me seem like a crazy person who says they've transcended a good part of their emotions. I keeping myself grounded because although that is the experience I'm having, I try to keep myself grounded by going backward and looking, am I feeling something? Is my body going through something? And keep checking in because it's easy to do a bypass, and I don't want to go into a spiritual bypass of any kind. But it is true what you're saying, that once you've learned to challenge your own thoughts and you've learned to quiet your own mind, you don't generally have the emotions most people have, because generally thoughts lead to emotions, which then leads to reactions. And if you've challenged your thoughts, you sort of challenge them at the root, you're not going to have the same level of emotions that the majority of people have.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was younger, or less transcended, if you will, just to sort of make fun of myself, is that I didn't have emotions. I was my emotions.
Yeah.
Well, right. I am angry. I'm not having anger. I'm not having a moment here. And, like I'm working with 9 and 10-year-olds. If they're upset, it's not going away. It's permanent. No. This is forever. This feeling is forever.
Right.
So if I'm in love, it's forever. And if I'm angry, or if in my room, like I'm punished for a week, it's forever. And, it's so long to have this feeling. But, and in your 20s, you still have your feelings, but you know that some of them are going to pass and some of them are not. You just don't know how long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I have my emotions. I do have them. I'm not them.
So the thing that I want to add to your amazing conversation is how much we're engaged in the present moment. Like as a kid, they're all about the present moment. So they feel that feeling and they feel, oh my God, like this is my reality. Versus we become adults and then we get into our head and we disengage from the present moment. And there's like this fear that's going on these days. Either it's about what's going to happen to my future, or it's triggering something in our memory about the past. But I love, that the thing that Rohit was sharing, like the faith and the peace and calmness, all of it are the inner work. Like the more we meditate, the more we work on ourselves. In these days, if I know how to meditate, if I know how to go deep and find the peace, I can win this situation and I can have a healthy, peaceful life and be responsible for what is in my power and then surrender to the rest. Yeah. But I feel the pattern is people are looking for outer world, and the outer world has a lot of ups and downs. A lot of ups and downs these days. Outer world, like the world outside of ourselves. Like
outer world.
The outer world, okay.
Here. Yeah, like it's, and that's where like they start watching the news and they start talking to people who are most afraid, and they forget about that. Hey, love and the peace and the faith, they're all inside my heart.
Yeah.
But how many people have practiced that for many, many years? Like I see myself like a little bit different these days comparing to friends and colleagues, because I feel I've done a lot of self-awareness work and then a lot of inner work, that I'm not afraid of this virus or people getting killed, because that's the human nature for the last 15, 20,000 years.
Yeah.
I know, like, if I am confident and my stress level is low, I'm not going to get sick. I have that faith and belief. But people are looking for the belief on the news, and they want to manipulate you with the fear. So that's not where you want to look for. So it's really important, like, how we engage the present moment, how much responsible we are to the thing that I can do today, and not just playing a victim of what's happening. And unfortunately, this is what's creating even a bigger impact than the actual virus. And it's the context, right? It's a human nature context. Martin, you teach that on your workshop. Like, we get into a reptilian brain, and we are in either to flight or freeze or fight, versus with the deep breathing and this calmness, we can be on the front cortex and be on the creative part. A lot of people are making money. A lot of people are creating connections these days. Those are the ones.
There's always people making money. In throughout history, the people are always surviving crisis. So you can decide if you want to be one of them or not.
Yeah, there's tons of jobs that have opened up because of all of this.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, businesses being created.
Yeah, there's going to be new industries showing up that we didn't even know of. They didn't exist before because the I don't know, the ingredients weren't there for it, right? And now you got to learn how to cook. Okay, well, these are the ingredients I have. But what I want to step back and talk about what PM said, you said some really, really cool stuff. And what I heard you saying is, from my perspective, the curiosity theory perspective, is like, what are we bringing into our own brain? Like, what am I bringing into my own brain? And why do I keep bringing that into my own brain? I watch the news. Why am I watching the news? Like, what am I looking for? And am I being responsible that I just grabbed a whole bunch of crap and put it in my brain? And now all my emotions are shot as a result of me watching something. Or am I going to take responsibility and go, I'm going to watch this, and I'm going to also understand that this is going to probably have an effect on me emotionally.
Yeah.
So I've got to, and then, like Woman said at the beginning, is like, you build your armor. You build your armor around things, and you can now or like Rohit says, he's going to go eat all the food, in India, in the corners, right? It's like you have a different relationship with what you ingest. You have a different relationship with how you interact with everything that's out there, because you're not doing it to freak yourself out unconsciously. You're consciously going, let me see what happens here. Let me see what this is. Let me see what's going on here. So I
do that with the news as well, by the way.
What's that?
I do that with the news as well, because I go there very consciously, ingest what I want to take in, and then be out of there. So, the point is that I am more than this.
Yeah.
I am more than this virus. I am more than my financial situation. I am more than the news. I choose how I want to take it and how I want to interpret it and where I want to go with it. Right. So what I want to share with you is the place of power. Where is the place of power from where we can begin to do these things? What makes us balance that equation between fear and fearlessness?
Okay, real quick, I want you to talk about this, Rohit, and I want all of us to also respond to that. So ask the question again, because that's a powerful question.
How do we balance the equation between fear and fearlessness? There's an instinct in us to be fearless. And that's why we say, oh, get over it, and you shouldn't fear. I'm saying there's an instinct in us to be fearless. And then there's the reality in us, which is fearful. There are two opposing forces that are often working together on us. Sometimes we choose one camp, sometimes we choose the other camp. I'm saying I find both those to be unproductive when you choose either extreme. Right? If you get only swallowed up by the fear, that can consume you. If you try to avoid the fear and just try to be super Zen and Buddha and all that, then again you kind of lose the plot of being human, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance and walk between these two? I'd love to hear you guys' ideas.
That's awesome. Ask the question again. Does everybody get the question?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Go ahead, Woman.
I don't think that just because that I don't experience fear the way I used to, that makes me any less human. I would have to leave planet Earth to stop being human. So, whatever
you wouldn't be on the Earth.
you know, whatever I do or not do is going to be human. You know, I mean, you could call it unfeeling or whatever, but I don't need to keep experiencing certain things because they're just useless. Like I think worrying is useless. It's like one of the most human, useless emotions and things that we've been given. That is like the most banal, useless, worthless tools on the planet. Like nobody. It literally like you worry to me is like getting a spoon. Big wooden spoon, sticking it in my stomach and twirling it around until I can't handle it anymore. Worry, 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 worry. You know what I mean? Like worry, 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 worry.
about, right? Let me watch
I
this
mean,
channel. Let me watch this channel. Let me have this thought, right? We just
I
keep
could
adding
just,
to it.
yeah, I can wind myself up into a frenzy, and you know, and it's stupid. Like I don't even bother with it anymore. Like I think, wow, I wish I would have had this as a kid. Why? Like worrying never did anything. And I have friends that are like, oh, well, when I worry a lot, I come up with solutions. I go, no, you don't. When you stop worrying and you decide you're done worrying, you come up with a solution.
Hmm.
That it takes you 5 weeks to worry, that's on you, brother. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you could have just done that 5 weeks ago, and you wouldn't have had 5 weeks of misery.
And it takes an awareness to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Rohit, was choose. You have a choice. I can choose to worry, or I can choose to stop worrying. But we all have a choice in how we're going to feel. And it's like, okay, well, how long am I going to stay in this?
Right.
But you got to keep
Right,
choosing
well,
over and over and over and over. Choice never stops. Like
Choice
you never
never
have, like you never run out of opportunities to choose. It just
No,
does.
it doesn't. But I also think that like that also has to do with the person, like the person's like basic DNA. Like survivors are going to survive.
Yeah.
Victims are just going to die. They're going to be eliminated. It's that's the nature of planet Earth. I don't think it's ever going to be any different.
See, Martin and Aaron, what you're talking about choosing, again, is a very logical thing. And when somebody is in worry or in anxiety or in fear, they're not very capable of choosing. I've seen this again and again. I may have developed some of that muscle in myself, and you may have, Wilman, and some of you may have also done the same. But yes, it's developed over a period of time. And it is a muscle that you develop to be able to come to a place where you are not letting it suck you in. But when somebody is sucked in, then the problem arises, and it's very hard to get them out of it. I've sat with people who are in their fear, in their anxiety, in their worry, and they don't want to come out of it. I could say any number of things. They don't want to come out of it.
I've been there.
Yeah. So what do you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
What do you
I
mean?
want
they
to
don't-
make a
consumes you.
point that it wasn't like something that you just get over with, but you go through.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can take people a week. It could take a month. It could take years to be able to get to that point. Like we've all trained ourselves in a way. But it's like when at some point, like I'll use my own experience, was making a decision at one time was, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. What, and then like, what can I do? Again, once the emotional state has passed, because you're absolutely right, is we can't think or come up with rational solutions when we're in a highly emotional state.
That's an emotional hijack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's almost like we gotta go through that storm first before we can think of any. We get our reasoning mind back into the realm. But what we try to even teach people is trying to shorten that gap so it doesn't take as long. Like if I'm feeling an emotion, which is going to happen, I know that the longer I stay in this, it's not going to be any good. So now I can go. I'm going to feel this for a little bit. How long do I want to stay here? And it's like we have different techniques for that, and people that do that. But it's like, okay, let's go through that emotional state. But sometimes people do need extra help because they don't know how to get out of that. I guess that's
Right.
what I'm getting at too.
I think the thing that Rohit said that I'm really interested in and I'm really curious about is like when we say I don't want to get out of it, and it's like, so what's the mechanism that happens in a human being that has them like obvious things that they probably shouldn't be doing, or people maybe they shouldn't be hanging out with, or they have an opportunity to get out. Why do people not get out? Why do people stay there when the opportunity is to get out? What do you see as the reason for that?
I think sometimes it's habit. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
Yeah, like habit. People are used to living a certain way. Like say you grew up in an abusive household and then you marry someone that's abusive. That's all you know. So if mom and dad, they're always fighting, oh,
Mhm.
that represents love. And you see
Mhm.
that, and then you tend to go in that direction. And because that's all you've seen growing up. But then
Yeah.
to be treated by someone who's loving and kind, and it's a healthy relationship, that could seem a little awkward because you don't know what that is, and it's
It
it's a
doesn't
different
compute.
vibration than what you grew up in.
Yeah.
So
So it's
it
very
could be
similar to
a
what Wilman said earlier.
habit.
When he talked about fear, like fear of a dog, like someone's been bitten once and then they fear dogs, or someone's had a little, some problem
Yeah,
with some
the
experience,
triggers,
right? And then it's got the memory is stored over here.
the
You
imprint.
sort of hardwired with that, just like you're saying, Veronica, because that's the familiar.
Yeah.
That's what's programmed in here, and
Yeah.
now that's the normal for you. So when someone's used to worrying, that's the normal for them.
Mhm.
They're in their loop and they're caught in it totally. And you could come there and offer them any number of platitudes and wisdom, and you could be whoever, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, Jesus, what you
Doesn't
name
matter.
it, they wouldn't get out of it because they're caught in their loop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess
I've seen something in myself, I think in the last 10 years where I've really become aware of patterns that I picked up as a child. And I really haven't been able to separate it from, sort of the way gorillas, they just, they go and they be a gorilla, and then the little gorillas do what the big gorillas do. And that's just
Mhm.
what we do. We're just gorillas and this is what we do. So in my family, there were certain things that we did, and that's just what we do. And it's only on a journey of self-analyzation and introspection do you discover that, some of those things just really are not very useful,
Hmm.
but and no matter, again, I coach kids. I there's a lot of words that certainly can influence children, but the biggest influence that I find with kids is who their parents are really being. Is those children duplicate the beingness of the parents.
Mm.
If the parents are confident, the children are confident.
Mm.
There are exceptions, obviously, but and I've had to tell myself that I'm unparenting those bad habits and those things that basically were just not really making my life better.
Right.
But it does take a certain amount of work. It's laborious. It's emotionally laborious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There is something I found that I'd like to share with you, a little tool that helps. It begins with a certain understanding. And that understanding is that there is a part of me that most of us will call our soul, our spirit, whatever. That part is capable of fearlessness. That part is capable of true love and happiness and peace. And there's all these aspirational qualities that we have. They're actually part of that they're the almost like the characteristics of that part of us. That part of us is extremely powerful. When we allow for that part of us to engage with the human part of us, something very interesting happens. So you don't go either or. This is where most people get it wrong. They either want to be totally human or they want to be totally spiritual. What I find is when you bring these two pieces together and you let that part of you, you go in, you take a deep breath, you allow that part of you to emerge, trusting that it will come so through. And then you hold the human part of you that is afraid, that is scared, that has emotions, that is anxious, that is worried. You just hold it very lovingly and you bring that energy, some call it presence, you bring that energy to that human part of you. Usually try to get it, go feel it in your body and then try to bring that energy to that part of your body where you're feeling the fear, the anxiety, the worry, whatever it might be. It's make it non-verbal. And well, you could make it verbal, but you just, it's more of reassuring. Say, hey, it's all right. We're going to be fine. Just really soothing and comforting yourself. And you find that what might have taken you days or weeks to kind of get over usually starts to collapse because there's no resistance to the emotion. There's
Yeah.
a complete acceptance of the emotion, and there's an outpouring of love towards the emotion. See, and as that emotion is accepted, and as it is loved, and as it is just held deeply, you find that it begins to collapse. This could happen with you and a partner. It could happen with you and a child. It could happen with you and yourself. This has been my experience learning how to kind of navigate these emotions. So just thought I'd
So,
share.
in response to what you said earlier, what I hear you saying right now, that's beautiful, Rohit. As usual, as always, you say such beautiful things. How do we balance fear and fearlessness? It's kind of like what you're saying is you're saying, how do we balance? So balance is the thing. So there's fear and fearlessness, and it's kind of like
Okay.
they're on both sides. How do we balance them? Where
Let
actually, let me kind of respond to that. So what I hear you saying, and kind of how I'm looking at it, is like what we do is if we're going to balance something, we've got to like put it on a scale so we can look at it, and then at that moment we acknowledge it. At that moment we acknowledge it that it exists. We can only balance that which that which we see it exists, because if it doesn't exist, there's no balance, because there's only fear, and then we go, oh, well, I'm going to be fearless. You're like, all right, well, that's kind of crazy to do. So balance, you look at both and you go, yeah, there's things I'm afraid of and there's things that I'm not afraid of, and I'd like to put this in that category, but right now it's in this category. I'm kind of scared of that thing, so let me work on that. And maybe I'm just always afraid of it, and then you brought it to your awareness, and that's where you can balance it in your awareness.
If
and
I may
have then techniques you can work through, right?
Yeah. If I can add something to what you said, what you're saying is right on the target. All I'd like to add to that is there is a part of you that is fearless. That's where that instinct is coming from. I want to be fearless. I don't want to be put down by these silly little things, right? There's a part of you that wants that. And then there's a part of you that is fearful. These two are very real. The human part of you is fragile. It is perishable. It can be destroyed by these viruses or by whatever, by an airplane, by whatever. It can be destroyed. And there's the other part of you that is imperishable. It cannot be destroyed. It is energy. And therefore it is fearless. Its nature is to be fearless. The nature of the human is to be fearful. So now you have these two opposing forces within you. And you're trying to battle these two one against the other. They're not to be battled. They're to be harmonized and brought together. Because then the part that is fearless can reassure the part that is fearful.
Yeah.
And now these two start working in tandem rather than in opposition. Most spirituality up till now has been in opposition to the human condition. It's like, well, just leave the world and be spiritual. Give up all your desires and be spiritual. And then others have gone into, no, let's just embrace all our desires. And it's just
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. It's so inspiring. Like, Rohit, it shows that you have embodied this conversation and you have practiced it. And I'm writing notes to meditate on it and contemplate on it. It's really beautiful. And adding to what you're sharing, I feel one of the biggest fear of human being is fear of unknown. So the way that we are, the relationship that I have with the unknown, that declares a lot of things. And I love this quote of Krishna who says, when you're no longer afraid, because every minute there's an ending and therefore a beginning, then you're open to the unknown. Reality is the unknown.
Yeah. Reality is the unknown.
But constantly, if I am open to the unknown or if I'm close to it, and that makes a huge difference. And what you just said is so inspiring. And I used to be on the extreme side of the human side, and then practice to be on the extreme side of spirituality. And my intention is to bring this together, but it's not easy because, as you said, like the masters in both sides, they're fighting with each other. But like the successful, happy, peaceful human being is like how you can, as you shared, like bring the spirit up and at the same time hold the humanity. I feel like I want to connect with you more and just learn it, because I feel that I have the powerful connection with my spirit and energy. And at the same time, I have this human goals and success and being a coach and helping my clients. Like, how can you be with both at the same time? Like, this is huge. And to answer your question about fear and fearlessness, again, it goes back to, like, what is fear? Fear is a feeling and understanding about the unknown, fearlessness is acknowledging that. So it seems that constantly we're comparing our moment to that thing, to that unknown. But if there's no comparison, we're all one at the same time, I guess we're not going to have all these thought-provoking actions. So then we're not going to talk about balance. We're not going to talk about fear. We are just connected to that. Again, Krishna always inspires me. I love his teaching. He says, the moment that you show a bird to a kid and say that this is a bird, that kid would never see that bird again. So it's just a matter of all the labeling that we put on things and all the conditioning, all the pattern and context that we just keep repeating, and we feel that we live life. No, we just live a certain lens that my parent told me to, or my book told me to, or my university told me. But have I looked at the flower just for half an hour without thinking? That's my practice, and it's not easy.
That's very cool. Very deep.
I love Krishna's teaching as well, by the way.
Makes it all quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got us quiet.
Yeah.
I love Krishna's teaching as well. I've studied the Bhagavad Gita and do an actual meetup every other Tuesday, in where we discuss Krishna's teachings from the Bhagavad Gita. So just if that's something that you relate to.
And I'm learning how to pronounce that.
It's interesting. We're actually reading the Bhagavad Gita today.
Really?
Through the translation of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Okay.
And I love that story of, for those who haven't read it, it's really about, it's like that battle of, they call it Kurukshetra. And when the esoteric meaning of it is like it's the war, the battle that we all have with our senses.
Yeah.
And it's like, we get so caught and attached to the outside world and forget who we truly are, that other part of that that's fearless and full of love and joy, that soul, that spirit part of us. And it's not like we all need to get there. If you want people that want to go there, they just, they end their worldly life, but it's how can we bring both worlds together, as you're mentioning, Radhit. And I every time we read it, it's funny because every time I go to that book, I can put it down for weeks and I'll go back to it. And wherever I left off at is like the message that needs to be heard today. And this is exactly what it was mentioning when I was reading, was about letting go of our attachment to things. Letting go it's not letting go of our desires, but letting go the attachment to it. And it took me a while to understand like that concept, especially money. Like I want things, I desire things in my life. And I think, and it was saying this is what creates so much like anger in the world, is it's unfulfilled desires. I'm not getting what I want. Martine would say, I'm not getting what I need. And that's going to create some upset. And it's interesting when they teach us, when you can let go of your attachment, that even if you don't get it, and I struggled with that for a while, and I didn't understand it. And I'm starting to finally get it, is being able to trust that things will happen. And if I get it, great. If I don't get it, or if I lose it, if I got my cup and my cup breaks, am I attached and then I'm going to dwell on that for weeks because my cup broke and it's just a cup? And I think right now is a very interesting time, because we've been talking about it, that with this whole COVID, it's changing people's perspectives, and we're now starting to see what's truly important in our lives. And people realize that, wow, I didn't realize toilet paper was so important. Right? But I think our perspective,
you don't have a bidet.
Right.
And we're going to start thinking about how, but you're going to see also people coming together and respecting each other, because we're all going through the same things together. It's not just a small group of people, it's the world. And you're going to see a lot of people come together, because it's not like a terrorist attack and somebody's wronging somebody else. It's an unseen thing that's affecting everybody that we all can relate to.
And when you can't even blame anyone. There's no bad guys to blame. You can't go to your machine guns out and go blazing after them,
I think somebody's definitely behind it. I'm not
blame
sure
Trump. That's what people want to do for some reason. And it's like, no, it's like we're all going through this.
And there could be. And
something like
that's
that.
another conversation, but
But you know what it is? It's kind of like this. It's this big monster that we can all agree there's a monster, and so we can all pretty much agree there's a monster out there. It's called COVID. so we can all look at it from whatever perspective, but we're all looking at the same painting. It's not, we're not looking at, maybe there's people looking at the back of the painting, but I'd say for the most part, we're all kind of looking at the front of the painting together. And then we all have our own interpretations of that painting.
So what's the monster bringing up for you?
For me, because I kind of love like watching people. I like studying people. I'm a very curious person. So I enjoy just watching people and engaging with people, because to me that's fascinating. So I had a conversation with a friend today. That I went for a walk with a friend today, and he was asking me, what do I think is going to happen? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, now people are going to, like, his interpretation is that people are now going to, like, we're all going to bow to each other like you do in, like they do in Japan or something, and people are going to be apart. And I said to him, I don't think it's going to be that. I think what we're learning is how important we all are to each other, how interconnected we are. The internet and texting and all this, even this social media, has all had us be able to communicate from afar. Like, how can I communicate? How can I fight with you about Trump or about Pelosi or whoever we want to get pissed off about, and we can fight from afar, and we can attack, and we can be bullies from afar. And that's really, really easy. And now we're kind of like, we're all looking at the picture from the same direction. So we're kind of like all in this together. And the kind of like the thing that unites us is maybe it's fear. Maybe, maybe to some degree, like, fear is kind of like what's common in most people. So what do I think is going to happen? Like, what my perspective is that I think we're going to learn that we love each other, and that we love human beings, and that we're beautiful, and that, like, it's cool to hug people, and it's cool to be touched, and it's cool to be interactive, because we've learned to not interact. And if you look at the people that are really good communicators, like, what I mean by really good communicators, the people that are naturally communicators, are the people that are kind of like over 50 years old, over 60 years old, where they had to talk. Maybe their way of communicating isn't that great, like their strategy, but yet they do communicate, yet they do say what they want to say. They do come together face to face, toe to toe, belly to belly, however, and say what they need to say. And what's happened for like the last 15, 20 years with the internet is we've learned to do that apart. And I think the exact opposite of what my friend was saying today is going to happen. I think we're going to realize that we actually want to be closer together. And because we're not allowed to be closer together. And I think we're going to long for that. And if we build off of that, I think that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that's happening in the United States, because I think a lot of countries that don't have, like, when I go visit my family in Colombia, relationships are very important, because life is still very tribal. It's still very, very much, there's no welfare state, everybody in the family should be a part of contributing to it.
Yeah.
I mean, people get out and they sell like laminated, what do they call those things? When you put their credit cards in, like the little plastic folder, like if they have to make a living doing that, they make a living going to do that. And then they bring that, whatever they make, back to the family, and it's not really a global thing. A lot of the world suffers from not having, this economy, this culture, this country hasn't had this probably since the Civil War, where it was really, really disrupted. World War II did some disruption. World War I did some as well. But, this is a direct.
It was over there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, well, you can't have certain things because we have to put it to the war effort. There's a slight inconvenience there, but maybe, the Great Depression, really inconvenienced a lot of people and their way of life, so we're experiencing something that happens repeatedly in history. Things get disrupted. People come together because they realize that they can't survive without each other, and they can't survive without, having that human interaction and the people that you can trust. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, I think we're in medieval times. You don't know who to believe. You know who you believe? The people that are right next to you.
Yeah.
Because you got Rush Limbaugh, you got CNN, you got Anderson Cooper, you got, Rachel Maddow, you got all these people talking.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know what they live like when they go home, but I know what my neighbor does.
Interesting.
I know who I can see. I know when I see somebody living and doing things on a regular basis, that's what I can trust.
Yeah.
And I think it's becoming like that, because if you try to listen to all the pundits and all the information that's out there, my friend, you're in trouble, because at the end of the day, what matters the most is what's happening in front of you. Your ability to make something happen, your ability for your community to make something happen, your ability to accrue the correct resources for people to have a decent life, your ability to have enough grain for the winter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. But that's not really a global awareness. That's more like the United States economy just got shut down.
Or we forgot that that's.
Oh, it hasn't been like that for a long time. We have
Yeah.
this generation. I haven't gone through that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The millennials haven't gone through it. I mean, they're going through it now, but even to some degree not. But again, like I said
I
earlier,
think to a big degree they're not going through it. A lot of
no,
them.
not really. Not if you're born in the tech age.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, in every culture and every continent throughout history, there have been massive disruptions, and the people that will come out on top are the ones that are paying attention. Because when you were saying, how do you see this? I actually see it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not afraid. I'm thinking, where do I want to be when I come out of this? That could be like 3 to 6 months. You know what I mean? Maybe it's only 2 months. All I know is I keep looking at where I want to be when I come out. And I'm not looking at the present situation of like, I just had 4 jobs and I lost them all. And where's money going to come? Like, I don't focus on that. I focus on where do I want to be when I come out of this? I want to be positioned to take advantage of it. I want to be positioned to come out on top. So I don't have time to be afraid.
You were built for this. I mean, every one of us right here, we're built for this. Like we've been working. Not that we wanted this.
Yeah.
But this is what we built ourselves for. All the books we've read, spiritual work we've done, all this stuff. We've built ourselves for this. And the opportunity is the opportunity is to see, did I do my work? Did I do the work that I need to do? And I'm willing to apply it to what's going on, whether I'm afraid, whether I'm, whether I need to invent myself, like, what do I need to do? Like,
this is where you put that stuff to work.
Yeah. You don't need to put that work. You don't need to put it to work when everything's great, because when everything's great, you coach somebody that has a disruption, right? That's what we do. People come to us because they have a disruption. Well,
Right.
we now all have the disruption.
Now this is an equal opportunity disruptor. Everybody gets to be disrupted. And now we get to see where you're really at. I mean, you could be some YouTube influencer, or you could be some writer, some author, some big person. All right, let's see where you stand now. Let's see what you're going through now.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this is something I learned a long time back, about 25 years ago. I made this my sort of active principle. Walk your talk. If you're going to talk about something, live it. And if you're not living it, shut up. I come across so many people right now who are just spouting, at least I'm not talking about right now, but the last few years that I've been here in the US, I find a lot of people just want to talk jargon. They want to talk the talk. Everybody's talking the talk. But walk the walk. That's what matters. Take one thing and start living it. Take one thing at a time. And over a period of time, you've woven together an entire personality, a character that is entirely different than what you had before.
Yeah.
So, you just take it on. You take on life. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I'll just say something like, I don't know if this is kind of petty to say, but I'm going to say it. Talk to all these guys that are influencers that teach people how to make money, do this. You're going to make $1 million a year, blah, blah, blah. Watch their posts. They're all about making $10,000. It's like the reality is coming, like, or $5,000. It's like they're now talking about real money. And the truth is, and from what I've seen, because I go to the programs I see, is very few of those people really made big money. They all just wanted to make $5,000 or $10,000 a month, or $1,000 extra a month. And now they're actually talking the truth. Like, you know what? I really know you just need an extra $1,000 or $5,000 a month. Let's figure out how to do that. And a lot of the strategies that they had were great strategies in theory, but they didn't work. They didn't work. They didn't include like real hard work. They didn't include digging in and practice. You know, like Willman practices with, you know, his team. They practice day in and day out, keep doing the same thing day in and day out. You know, all these people were talking about get rich quick and all this other stuff. And you know what? That's those are far and few between.
And
It's
you
an
know,
illusion.
Martin, this
It's an
whole
illusion.
exercise starts with the American dream. This bullshit idea of the American dream that you can have anything you want, be anything you want, then it carries forward, and you have all these people who then, you know, then you have people in churches saying that, then you
Yeah.
have the law of attraction saying that,
Yeah.
and then you have all these influencers saying that you can have anything you want. But my question to every single one of these people is, let's say you have everything you want. What guarantee do you have you're going to be happy? And show me how many people that have everything they want are actually happy.
Yeah.
And the percentage is going to be extremely small. And
Yeah.
and they're the ones, you know, they're going through the same depression as everybody else. They go through the same anxieties because they haven't worked on this here.
Yeah.
The last 300 years, we have focused on developing science and technology that has to do with machines. We didn't work on making a better human being. We worked on making a better machine.
Mm.
This is what has been suffering as a result.
But has there ever been like a mass movement of let's make a better human?
Not
I
in
mean,
our time. In ancient India, that was the focus. That was their whole focus was how do you make a better human being? That's what their whole system was designed around. The people that were the most evolved beings were given the highest respect. If such a person walked into the court of a king, the king would get off his throne and seat such a saintly person on the throne and wash his feet, because that was the level of respect given to someone who was a highly evolved being.
right. Not
I-
like
Today,
in
I
medieval
think that it's
times when
always
we
been
used to
out
have.
there.
What's
I
that?
think that it's been out there. I think we've had generations of it. You go to the 70s and, you know, they were, you know, talking about peace, love. They were singing songs. It was about being positive. And we go into I think it's different levels of different things. It's,
maybe. Yeah.
you know, because why didn't our parents, you know, tell us like you should kind of be nice to your kids? Well, because they didn't have time for it. They were too busy trying to do what they were doing. It's not like they weren't doing anything wrong. They were busy,
Mm.
I don't know, doing what they were doing. And it just didn't occur for them.
Right.
Now we have the ability to, I don't know, what do you say? It's like we have the privilege to have this stuff occur for us and talk about it. And it's a privilege, and we're lucky. Maybe we're pretty lucky that we can actually have these conversations this way. Because if this would have happened in the 70s, you know, it's not the same kind of thing. Oh my God, we can't watch the Brady Bunch tonight or something. What are we going to do? You know, kids go to sleep. Mom and dad are going to have sex or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen. You know,
What are you talking about? People were playing board games, Ouija boards and Monopoly, and you know, you were still sitting around the campfire together. That was more common.
exactly. Okay,
This-
great.
you know,
Yeah.
Like that was you know, hanging out with people was a very common it was just more common.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that. Absolutely.
And
But
that's
I
the same
mean,
thing with the virus. It's like a wake up call for everyone. Like, you know, what truly matters is like being with family, being with friends, and being together. Also treating people with more kindness and more love. Like it's like people need to wake up, and it's unfortunate that it had to happen in this way. But to me, I see it like a wake up call for people.
Kind of like that blessing in the skies
Yeah.
kind of scenario.
yeah, I don't know if it's unfortunate though, because I mean, when does a mass consciousness happen to society during good times?
It doesn't have to. You're just
No, I'm
celebrating.
just saying, like, no, but you're just celebrating, right? Like,
Yeah.
like if we were just like, woo, we're just gonna party and we're gonna have things and we're gonna buy things and everybody's gonna be working and we're all gonna get along. I mean, mass evolution doesn't usually happen in those moments. It usually happens in a time of extreme duress.
I think if I
You know?
combine the two things you guys are saying, what Veronica's saying and what Wilman is saying, it's a really interesting observation you guys are making, that what has happened is in the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years, we've seen everyone becoming more and more isolated, more and more in their own little bubble. Maybe it's your few friends or mostly I see people when they find a partner, then they're kind of like jam on to that partner. And then people who are single kind of feel themselves lonely and you know, don't really have strong bonds and connections like you see in certain countries, perhaps as you were describing, Wilman, where you come from, or in countries like Italy or wherever else I've been, or in India, I see that as well. But here in America, we've lost that sense of community to a large extent. Now we're doing something very funny. We're getting on Zoom.
Exactly.
And we're building community.
Yeah.
And it's starting to happen. I hope it will translate into us doing that in person, spending
Depends on
more
how long
time
it lasts.
Let's
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
how much the effect lasts. I hope
No,
that
I'm saying it depends on how long the crisis lasts, how
Right.
ingrained that new habit will be.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about ingraining the habit, like we said in the beginning. It's got to get it wired into our brains, and then we'll become addicted to this kind of connection. And hopefully, then we'll say, "Well, can I just meet you in real rather than being on the screen? That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have a
But
cup of
actually,
tea together."
but you know what's interesting about that, especially because we're all here in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
You guys are all here.
Yeah.
So I just noticed how much people really do go out and congregate. We go to beaches, we go to dinner, we go to restaurants, we go to music, we go hiking, we go skiing. You know what I mean? We go to the mall, whatever. We really do get out and do stuff with others.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that the internet has really, separated us as much. I mean, when you think about people taking the bus or something or taking the subway, it's not like people were just talking to each other like they were buddy buddy. They, now, and I know there's an observation that, oh, well, people are just on their phones in elevators. Well, I don't know. Rarely do I get into an elevator where I feel really close to everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you do for dinner last night? Like I don't randomly just talk to people like that. I'm gonna give a fuck.
I
You know
do.
what I mean?
I'm
Like,
kind of weird like that.
The
I mean,
issue-
I'll break the ice, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't know that we're really less connected. We might be told that rhetoric, but we're still, otherwise we wouldn't be so jarred by our being disconnected at this point.
You know what I hear you guys saying? It's kind of funny because what I hear you saying is there's nothing wrong. Like if I take a perspective and step back, what I hear you saying is like there's nothing wrong. We're like fine. We go out the way we go out, and sometimes we talk to people in elevators, sometimes we don't. There's nothing wrong. It's like
I just made that observation. Like, wait a minute, I don't know that it was ever really like. It doesn't mean because I didn't have an iPhone when I was in high school that I was any more connected to people. I still looked at people like they were either weird or they were cool, and I either talked to them or I either didn't. I still do the same things.
yeah. And everybody's doing what they're going to do. And people are trying to get back to like, let's get back to normal. It's like, okay, that's not a place I want to go. I don't want to get back to where I was. I'm like take advantage of like what's happened so I can, play at the next level, whatever that next level is. Like, who wants to play with me on that game? And that's what I'm looking for. And that's kind of like the beacon I want to be. It's like, okay, great. We, life was like this. We got disrupted, like you said, woman. Rohit, like you said. And then like now we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to change our consciousness, raise our consciousness, look at the world from a different perspective. We have that opportunity. Now, what do we want to do with that opportunity? What do you guys want?
When I've been doing my support group that I'm doing every morning on Monday to Friday, I have this emotional support group going on Zoom. It's open for everyone. But what I've been finding when I talk to people about, when we discuss the fears that they have and we talk about, what is it that really matters? What matters invariably to people is connection. What matters is the people they love, the depth of that connection. So when you talk about the fact that we go out and we kind of socialize and we mix, we surf and we do this and we do that, that's still not deep connection. What I'm talking about is the deep connections you see in older cultures where people really bond, whether it's as friends, whether it's as family, they're just really there for each other. That sense of solidarity is something I find missing out here. Maybe you don't, but that's been my experience the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's definitely not the same because we don't need each other as much. And we're taught,
exactly.
in the United States, we're taught that once you're 18, you should leave the house and get your own thing. In a lot of other cultures, I lived in South Korea for 3 years. I mean, they definitely rely on each other.
Yeah.
you're obligated. Like, I took care of you, now you got to take care of me. And they're not shy about it.
Same thing. The culture is like everyone is connected to each other, relying on each other, and yeah, and like that was the first culture shock because I moved to US 5.5 years ago. Whenever I was the first culture, it's like I feel like, oh, people like they don't really care that much, and that warm-blooded people that I'm used to hang out, like it's hard to find, and I think I got adjusted to this culture as well. So maybe I'm not that person anymore either, but because but like you find that if that's your mindset and if you feel that there's a desire and need for it. But yes, I acknowledge what you're sharing. That's my observation because I'm coming from different culture and it's a different background.
Where do you come from?
Iran. I'm from Iran.
Iran. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So let's wrap up. The conversation was built around fear, and I think we did a good job of kind of like diving into like where it comes from, how it manifests, how it shows up, and then some great ways of shifting the way that we approach life. And it might not have been directly like do this, but I think what was really cool about how we about the conversation that we had is it brought in different perspectives, but in unique ways. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's like some really cool perspectives. And I think that what we talked about tonight could be very valuable for a lot of people. And I want to thank you guys all for hanging out. And is it at that? So real quick, I know Aaron and Veronica got something that's kind of really want to have everybody say something before we go. But Aaron and Veronica, you guys got something going on tomorrow. We want to talk about that really quick?
Yeah, like we were just telling we're gonna get ready for it, but we're an event. It was interesting because we were supposed to be doing it here live in San Diego when we set it up a few months ago. Then this whole thing happened, so we embraced the opportunity and said we're gonna do our event online. So we're gonna do it through a Zoom, and it's our Let Go workshop, and it's kind of on the same lines about learning how to let go of things that we hold on to that still show up in our life today that might hinder us in different ways. And so we're going to be sharing our experience of what we teach and what we do, even go through some life clearing processes that we help people with, even ourselves that we work with. We use our work all the time. And what's interesting is with Veronica, because Veronica's like an empath, is an empath. She feels the emotions of other people, which is interesting. And
that
so
could be rough.
Huh?
That could be rough.
That could be rough.
You've learned to work with it.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It's not that
Yeah.
bad.
I know,
yes,
I know a couple of others, and
what you
they have a hard time really separating themselves from it. That's what I was saying.
I used to be that way.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I had trouble, like, is this me or is it somebody else? But if I'm really tuned into me and how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
when someone walks my path, and if I feel all of a sudden I feel depressed for no reason, I know that's not me.
Hmm.
So it's having the
that's very
awareness
cool.
of how you feel.
That's
And
awesome.
so we do that process. So that event will be on Zoom from 10 to 1 tomorrow Pacific time. Still got registrations over. We always only ask that if anybody wants to join, it's a donation that they're choosing. But it really doesn't put a cost on it. It's just anybody can join in and just enjoy the process. And we'll do some live clearing work for a few people that we have time for. We're just gonna have a lot of fun. We've been wanting to share this, and this was the greatest opportunity, as we talked about. Opportunity. In fact, with this whole thing happening, going through Zoom instead of live, we actually have more people registered because of that, because now we have people that can do it from across the state, across the country that couldn't make it before. It's like, I'm not going to fly all the way down to San Diego, but they can join on a Zoom. So
Right.
if you guys want to join us, you're more than welcome. I'd love to have you.
No, that's
the links
great.
in the chat if you could.
You know what
Yeah.
I'll do is I have the link. I'll send it to all three.
Okay, and
everybody.
your website
I'll
and all
send you
that
guys
kind of
for it.
stuff,
I'll send that out, Aaron Veronica. Cool. Rohit, what do you got going on?
I'm doing a bunch of stuff right now. I told you about this emotional support group that I have
I
going
went to one
on.
the other day. It was awesome.
That's every Monday to Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific. And then I have a meetup that happens every Tuesday. So we have different, one week we'll discuss my book, Loving Soulfully, and then other weeks we'll discuss the Bhagavad Gita, and then we rotate that around. So try to keep the conversation rich and
I
powerful.
saw your meetup group on the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, you saw that?
before, and I wanted to come,
It's really cool.
but something happened, and then the whole thing with the virus.
Coronavirus happened.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but I was interested in going to
But
that.
you can still join it right now. It's there on the meetup.com. But I'll also put down the
Okay.
links over here, so that you have it in the chat. So one is this, the other is let me see. Bhagavad Gita.
And then for those that might be watching live, they can put it in the feed as well, so they can see it.
I put it down at the bottom, little ticker. I learned how to use that little ticker.
There you go. I love the ticker.
Cool. Yeah, Rohit, your stuff is really cool. I've gone to twice. I've been with you twice, and it's really, really cool. Payam, what do you got going on, brother?
Supporting family members and friends. That's what I feel like is really necessary, and just sharing this calmness and peace that I have. And I'm thinking of hosting my workshop through Zoom, because we like to see it from a opportunity perspective. So I'm gonna design my workshop through Zoom and hopefully have it sometime end of April.
Wonderful. And what your workshop's called?
Bridging the gap of dream and fulfillment.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, 5 steps from dream to fulfillment.
Wilman, my brother.
What's the question?
What do you got going on? What's going on, man? What could
Nothing. I'm not doing
I'll tell you
anything.
something. Okay, so you want to get coached. I'm not kidding.
Routine.
You want to get coached by a badass
I'm
coach.
not doing anything. I'm avoiding everything. I'm
That's
just
right.
hoping to come out of this like I'm just gonna. No, I'm looking for. I'm really more focusing on myself and strategizing for how I can come out of this in a better position. So I've actually started to outline my my coaching, like the way I coach, and how that actually is effective, and taking it from a soccer environment into other environments. And I'm dying to create. I want to, with all this time, I really want to play music, even though I have a problem with my thumb. It's hard for me to play the guitar, but I'm itching to create like some new content and just put it online every day. So I'm going to give it a shot tonight and see what I can do. But mostly it's a rebuilding phase for me, where I'm going under, I'm going inside, and I'm rebuilding my life in a different way, so that I don't have another pandemic, ruin me career-wise or financially or anything like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I love it. Thanks, guys. I'm actually building a program called Focus 13, and I'm going to be filming that this week and launching it in the next couple of weeks. And the Focus 13 program is how I created it is I meditate every day. I've been meditating for years, and my time that I meditate is 13 minutes. That's my minimum time of meditating. And one day actually not one day, but I would find myself just kind of like lost and spaced out at work, just not focused. And one morning I woke up, I was meditating, and I thought, God, I can meditate for 13 minutes. Maybe I can work for 13 minutes focused. So what I did is I decided every day I decided that day to just work in 13-minute increments. And I would dedicate my energy, my time, my knowledge, and what I could for a focused time of 13 minutes. And I found that the things that would take me 2 or 3 hours to get done, it was getting done in 5 or 6 minutes, or 2 or 3 rounds of 13 minutes, and become incredibly effective. And
How'd you come up with 13?
It's just as a number that I chose, my favorite number. So I decided.
I see. Because it could have been like focus 12 and a half,
Exactly. Like so the idea is if you meditate for 12 and a half minutes, then yours would be called Focus 12 and a half.
So what do you do with
Whatever
that?
works for you.
That's right.
I'm just curious, but I think it's great. It's like, I just picked a number. It was good. I do it.
That's
Okay.
it. That's how isn't it life? We just pick something, we just come up, okay, I'm going to do that, I'm going to play the sax, what the heck, it's like, all right.
Yeah, in 100 years, it's going to be like, listen, that's the way it's been for 100 years. That's the way it's always going to be. 13 minutes. It works.
Yeah. Why did we go live? Because we said, let's go live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People say, you know, what's the purpose of life? I said, what do you want it to be? Make it up. We're constantly making shit up. Just make it up. What do you want it to be? You get to decide that. And then get excited about it and go do it. And if it doesn't work out, make something else up.
Yeah. The
You
funniest
wanna-
thing about life,
14.
what's that?
We're gonna call our program Focus 14.
Yeah, exactly.
For those you can do more. What's the next level from 13? 14.
That's right.
Oh, 15.7599.
Exactly.
Now we're in auction. I'm gonna have Focus 12.
He's more effective than any of us.
Right?
Yeah,
Hey, I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out.
funny.
And
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Martin.
you.
we'll do this
Thank
right
you.
Yeah,
What a
Thanks for having
pleasure
me.
being here.
good talking to you guys.
This is great.